In this very brief video, I want to talk about the effects of a tariff on a society, as promised in the question and answer column in Economic Review in February 2014. I'm going to do this using a diagram. So here we see demand and supply of a particular good in a country. This is a good where the world price is set at PW, which you can see is below the market equilibrium in the domestic market, which would come at the intersection of demand and supply. Now, if there is no regulation of trade here, then the demand for this good at the world price PW will be D0, and the amount supplied by domestic producers will be S0, because that's what the supply curve tells us. Which means that imports are given by D0 minus S0. Now, for many countries, especially LDCs, with a shortage of foreign exchange, it may be desirable, or it may be seen as desirable, to limit the amount of imports and perhaps encourage domestic producers to produce more. And one way of doing this is by imposing a tariff, let's say of the amount T. This means that the price in the domestic market will be PW plus T. Demand will be D1 and supply S1, and you can see that this has been effective in limiting imports to the amount D1 minus S1. However, this has a number of effects on the market and on society. First of all, this triangle in rather pale blue represents inefficiency in production. So domestic producers are encouraged to produce more, moving output from S0 to S1, but in so doing there's a waste of resources in the sense that this good could have been imported at PW. Secondly, there is a loss of consumer surplus given by the red triangle. Actually, of course, consumer surplus has gone down by more than that, but this is a loss in consumer surplus that's not balanced by a change elsewhere. For example, the green rectangle shows the revenue that the government is able to raise through the tariff. So that is a transfer. And this dark blue area represents an increase in producer surplus, because domestic producers now sell at a higher price. In other words, the loss in consumer surplus overall is given by the sum of the two triangles, the rectangle and the dark blue area. Of that, the dark blue area is a transfer from consumers to producers. The green area is a transfer from consumers to government, but the two triangles are a deadweight welfare loss to society. So imposing the tariff does have the effect of reducing imports and increasing domestic supply, but it also imposes a welfare loss on society as a whole.